Shit, YouTube, what is up? I got 5 cool things to bring you today. A lot of books and a couple TV shows. No video games, no movies. So, yeah, a lot of reading. I've been doing a ton of reading this summer because I've got a lot of time to really do nothing at this time of year because I can sit outside, I can sit inside. It's warm, it's comfortable, it's bright, right? That there's so much more desire to read during these warmer months than during the colder months. I mean, I'm always reading stuff, but the summer it goes into overdrive. So let's start with the first one, a little something from 1985, Hammer of the Gods, the Led Zeppelin story. And when I looked into reviews of this book, it's written by a guy named Stephen Davis. The band didn't like what he did with the book, said a lot of stuff was made up or exaggerated, blah, blah, blah. And apparently this guy has, I forget, they have a nickname for him because he kind of has done that to other bands as well. Maybe not represented them entirely truthfully. So I don't know how much of what I read was real and what was not after learning that nugget, but it definitely was interesting to hear some of the facts and whatever. So, you know, late 60s, Jimmy Page becomes a fantastic guitarist, and who was it? Eric Clapton leaves the Yardbirds, but Jimmy doesn't join them. Instead, Jeff Beck does, but eventually Jeff Beck leaves the Yardbirds, so Jimmy joins the Yardbirds and does very well with the band. But the rest of the guys aren't that serious, apparently, so eventually they're fraught with failures and stuff. And while they're on the road and stuff, Jimmy gets sick, and he realizes he's maybe not cut out for being on the road and touring and that kind of pressure, so he turns more towards studio work and producing and that kind of thing. And in the process of that, he meets Led Zeppelin's future bass player, John Paul Jones. And I forget his real name. And that's how those two first kind of hook up and meet each other and become conscious of the other. In the meantime, Robert Plant and John Bonham are kind of buddies in another area of the UK. And Jimmy gets wind of Robert Plant and his voice from somebody, I can't remember, and goes to check him out at a show, and he's like, yeah, this, you know, that's promising. And so Robert comes along and auditions and gets the gig for a new band they're trying or something to that effect. And they're like, oh, we need a drummer. And then Robert's got, I know just the guy. And so his buddy John Bonham. So when these four came together, it was almost like instant success. Like the guys all got along. They created this amazing music. They put out a record real quick. It did really well. They went on a tour. Now, they never were received all that well in the UK, their home nation. But when they went to America, people loved them. Records were bought up like crazy. At one point during the height of their fame, they were outselling like Elvis Presley and the Beatles and stuff like that. So they would tour America many times, and LA was kind of their home base, and the stuff they would get up to there seems insane. And again, I don't know how much is true, but the Red Snapper story was my favorite one. So there was rumors that Led Zeppelin had cut up a shark and they were stuffing shark bits up groupies' coochies, that kind of thing. And then they were like, no, that's not it. We had this ginger girl and she was hot to go, so we got a red snapper from the market to see if her red snapper would like the red snapper. And apparently she did, because she came like 20 times. So like these are all quotes from the fucking book. And it's just like being a rock star in the 1970s would have been fucking awesome, right? It would just been awesome. And then it goes on to like throughout the book as the years go by, that like they'll talk about how this album got made, like where they went to record it, what the mood was like, what their inspirations were. And then they would go through all the tracks that were on the disc and kind of what types of tracks they were, you know, that kind of thing, and how they were received in general by the audience. Led Zeppelin 3, that album apparently wasn't well received, which was between 2 and 4, which the two best albums as far as I'm concerned. 2's still my favorite. It's so fucking good. Yeah, and so then it would just go through the accounts of how the band got together, got a lot of success, all the tours, all the recording, and then of course, as they started to come down from the height of their fame. Some things started to fall apart, but then that was all superseded by when John Bonham died of drinking too much and choking on his own vomit. So, and at that point they were like, yeah, we're not Led Zeppelin without John Bonham, right? So they called it quits. Robert Plant went on to a solo career, and the other guys did various things. They eventually got back together for some benefit shows and stuff like that, and then another tour, I think later on, the Unleaded tour or whatever it was. But yeah, it was just very interesting to hear about this band, because as a kid growing up, like, their first handful of albums would have been released before I was even born. So, and then I think John Bonham died in 1981. I would have been like 5. So Led Zeppelin's music meant nothing to me at the time it was actually being made. It was later on when I got to be 11, 12, whatever, and I was getting into that type of music that I discovered them. And yeah, then now they're one of my top 5 bands of all time. So to kind of learn about the band that I never really knew much about them other than their music, their names, what they looked like, and that they were British. I never knew anything else, right? So to read an account of the band, even though it may not entirely be as accurate as 100%, was a very interesting read. I flew through it. Like, I flew through it. If you don't know Led Zeppelin, but you like rock and roll, I mean, chances are you do know them, because those who like rock and roll will gradually gravitate towards them one way or another. But if you don't know them, get to know them. They're fucking awesome. Next up, from 1987, book 1 of the Moonshae's trilogy, Darkwalker on Moonshae. So this has been a really good trilogy. I really like this book series. So it takes place on a collection of islands called the Moonshae Islands, which is off the main landmass in the Forgotten Realms saga, and it's a very little space overall compared to the overall map of the Forgotten Realms. And the Earth Mother is the goddess who lords over the Moonshae Islands, and she is basically the goddess is the Moonshae Islands. She's the rock, she's the trees, she's the sand, she's the water. And so they're coming out of a winter season, and the Earth Mother goddess is awakening from her slumber during the winter months and setting spring up to bring the lands back up to a nice pleasant time. But she feels a corruption on the land. And from one of the corrupted moon wells, this beast appears. That's all they call him, the beast. His actual name is Khazgaroth, but he is an evil fiend with lots of power, and he is starting to roam the land, and the Earth Mother is very, very concerned about this. So she rallies her children. So Cameron the unicorn is roused. The Leviathan, a massive sea creature that resides deep under the waters around the Moonshae Islands, and then the wolf pack, so like hundreds of wolves strong, are all roused from their slumbers, just like the Earth Mother just woke up, to come help with this threat of the beast. Meanwhile, on the Moonshae Islands, in terms of the humans, it focuses on one of the main cities on the island of Gwyneth. I don't know how you say it, but the town is Cair Corwell, and it is lorded over by King Kendrick. His son, Tristan Kendrick, is eventually going to be the king, as he is the prince. But he doesn't take necessarily everything about becoming an eventual king that seriously. He loves to train in fighting and strategizing and that kind of stuff, but he has no patience for the more subtle arts of being a king, like the diplomacy and settling squabbles between a couple farmers who have a dispute about something, that kind of thing, right? So his father is kind of disappointed in him all the time. And Tristan loves dogs. He just acquires a new dog. He's out with his sister, Robin. Robin is not his actual sister. So Robin is an orphan that the King Kendrick took in and kind of raised her beside Tristan as kind of siblings, right? But there's a romantic thing between them that has yet to be acted upon. So one day they're out in the town, in the market, and Tristan's buying a new dog. He runs into his halfling friend Paldo, and everything's going well until he gets some his purse is stolen by a thief. So Tristan takes off after him, eventually catches up to him. But as they're taking this guy Dareth to the castle for discipline, or his whatever the ruling's going to be on for him stealing from Tristan, uh, they eventually they're talking to this guy, and they eventually start to like him. He's from Kalimshan on the mainland, and they eventually get the king to like just let it be, and they become friends. So he starts hanging out with Tristan and Robin and Paldo and whatever. And they also eventually meet up with a guy who comes to deliver the king a message. He's a bard, and his name is Karen. And I can't remember. It's some sort of dire message about something that's going to happen. And so after he delivers this message, he's supposed to return to his homeland right away. But he falls in with Tristan and Dareth and Robin and Paldo, and they all become friends and hang out for a while before he eventually does head home. However, after he embarks on the road back home, Tristan's dad, the king, is like, Tristan, you got to take more of an active role. You're now in charge of the defenses of Kaer Corwell. You're going to strategize, settle, everything military and protecting this land. You're in charge of now. However, and Tristan is kind of pumped about this, but also not at the same time. But in the meantime, Karen the Bard has this falcon that flies with him, and it returns to the castle and is basically freaking out and relays a message to the gang that Karen is in trouble and has been kidnapped or something like that. So Tristan leaves his father a note or something. We're going to look for our friend. We'll be back, and then I'll get back to my job or whatever. So this leads them on a great adventure where they raid a Furbolg lair where Karen has been taken captive and is going to be put to death. While they're there, they off all these Furbolgs. They get onto all these altercations. They find a treasure room where they find some really cool items that help them on future adventures. One of them being the sword of, I don't even know how to say this name, but Chimric Hugh or something like that. This sword is fabled. The person who settled Kaer Corwell was this guy that had this sword, and the sword was legendary, as was the guy, in repelling all sorts of nasty threats from the land. And, the rumor has long been the guy who finds this sword and returns it to the castle is going to be the hero that rights everything in the land of the Moonshae Islands, right? So suddenly Tristan's got this sword in his hand, and it's an amazing sword that almost seems like it has sentience. It's eager to jump to his palm and get to the fighting sort of thing, right? So that's a huge boost for them. They rescue Karen. They find this sword. But then they get led on all these kind of misadventures as the corruption that's penetrating the land catches up to them on their adventures, and they have to fight off all these dastardly creatures. And so what happens with Khaz'goroth, the beast, is that he infects a couple of people with kind of his malevolence. One of them is a druid who aids some enemies eventually into helping them, get into Kaer Corwell and cause some ruckus there. But the main person that Khaz'goroth infects, and he basically kills the guy and takes over his body, is on the northern islands. There's they seem like almost like Vikings in a way, like big, thick guys with blonde hair and big beards. They're called the Northmen, and the overall king of them was recently talking about maybe making a peace with the people of the Moonshaes, but then Khaz'goroth takes over his body, and he's like, we're going to invade them. We're not going to leave one person alive, right? So this whole fleet of Northmen are mobilized and head towards Kaer Corwell. The Leviathan dies in an attempt to stop them and does a lot of damage, but doesn't stop them entirely. Cameron the Unicorn is across the land taking things out. The Wolfpack is mobilized to come to Kaer Corwell. So you have all these different good guys and bad guys converging on this scene, right? And it's really, really neat. And along the way, Robin finds out, she starts using these weird powers by accident, these powers of nature and stuff like that. So there's something obvious that she, whoever her parents were, they weren't just regular people. She has some sort of innate gift in her to control magic or something. So as that little group is out defending the land against all the threats they run into, the Northmen descend on Cair Corwell, and eventually a siege starts there. The king is not killed, but he's lost under a pile of rubble, so they're kind of leaderless, and things aren't going that well. But finally, Tristan and his band arrive back at the castle, and Tristan really comes into his own as a future ruler as he starts taking command after Robin and Tristan confer with Tristan's dad, the king. And Robin gets a bit of news that her mother was actually the most powerful druid in the land, and so that's why she has these nature powers. And she's given some of her mother's possessions, these scrolls and manuscripts and stuff. And so while Tristan is out leading the fortifications of Cair Corwell, she's in her room reading up on all these spells and shit like that. And so the Northmen finally come, and they got the furbolgs on their side. It's almost overwhelming the amount of people trying to break into this castle. But again, the wolf pack's on its way. All sorts of things are in play here. And just when the battle seems like it may not be going their way, Robin finally appears with the staff that her mother left her, and starts clearing people out with all of her magic. And it's not just her. There's a lot of other people that go into the effort of defending the keep. But eventually they are able to turn the threat aside. But one of the beast's henchmen, this skeletal guy, I forget his name, he's able to capture Robin. He takes off with her into the forest, and the beast, seeing that the day is lost, takes off after him. And so Tristan and the rest of his friends are like, well, we got to go after them. And so they split up eventually. Tristan really wants to go after Robin because they're in love, and they finally talk about it, and he can't stand to lose her. But his friends are like, Tristan, we'll go get her. You go after the beast. If the beast is left to get away and continue to spread, this is just going to keep on going. It needs to die. So they split up. I don't want to spoil it for you, so don't listen after this point. Tristan slays the beast, ends that threat, and then the rest of his friends do get Robin back, but it's a druid that's been watching over the whole scene going on that actually does the work of helping get Robin back from this skeleton guy, which is a really cool character, just a filthy, nasty piece of work. So in the end, all the evil is shunned from the land. All the enemies are defeated except one minion of the beast, who still is infected with the beast's nasty energy, and is walking the forests near Cair Corwell with some infernal things on his mind. So it leads right into the second book. How do I know? Because I've already finished it, but it's not in this review period. It's not in. Next up, I think from 2012, I think it was, my favorite match, a wrestling book with a whole bunch of short stories told by wrestlers about what their own personal favorite match that they wrestled in was. So you got a few older guys. You've got Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. What were some of the other guys? Not a lot of older guys. He's the only guy I can remember off the top of my head. Some Attitude Era guys like Triple H, Kane, and then, but most of them are more recent guys, or probably around this was written, like The Miz and Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton, those kind of guys, right? So a lot of interesting stories. Some of them were just kind of boring, but some of them were really good. Kane talking about his match with his brother, The Undertaker, was a good one. Mark Henry talking about a casket match with The Undertaker was good, because Mark Henry's claustrophobic, so he was like, I was terrified that whole fucking match, right? Like going in that coffin. Randy Orton talking about a match he had with, I think it was Mankind was in his Cactus Jack persona maybe, and they were talking about using thumbtacks during the match, and Randy's like, does it hurt? And and so he took one thumbtack home with him to his house and put it on the living room floor, and then fell on it and was like, shut up a bitch. So he almost psyched himself out by doing that, because he's like, what is the match going to feel like with that when there's hundreds of them, right? So that was a funny one. The Miz winning or defending his first title belt, or maybe winning it, I can't remember. But near the end of the match, he got concussed, so he doesn't even remember the end of the match. So the only way he can like see how he won it was like to watch it on DVD, sort of thing, right? And one of the ones that I like the best and that I now want to watch, because I don't remember this happening at all, but Goldust and Rowdy Roddy Piper had a like street fight match, and it just sounded nuts. Like they used a car, they used all sorts of stuff. It sounded like berserk. And now I really want to look for that match, because I loved Piper back in the 80s. He was such a fiery motherfucker. But Goldust, like, what a cool character from the Attitude Era. The guy was just a freak, and I fucking loved it. I loved everything he did. He was so funny, and he played that character so well. Just an underrated member of that Attitude Era roster, right? And then there was plenty more. Oh, the other one was a couple of guys that I wasn't really familiar with. Like, I knew their names and stuff, but I wasn't really watching wrestling at the time. Before the match, they had their match time cut down by a significant amount. So they were like, okay, we got to get this going, right? So the first guy came down the ramp and really, you know, speedily, and cut his normal entrance time down. The second guy just came booting out, didn't even fucking, like, just right to the ring. And then it happened so fast that the ring announcer from that time, Lillian Garcia, was still in the ring, and she was about to get out. But this guy came in so fast, didn't even see her, knocked her out of the ring. So, like, apparently she was, like, grabbing her neck, like, oh, my neck, my ankle. She didn't have a problem with her neck. She ended up, like, she had a sprained ankle, sort of thing, right? So, and they were just saying, like, you just never know what's going to happen on live TV in the wrestling biz, right? Like it's just a shit show. You never know. And one of the funny things that the guy said at the end was, like, if you look it up on YouTube or whatever, like, you can see they made a meme out of it. Like, you know that song, like, move, bitch, get out the way. And they did that song with him coming in and knocking her out of the ring. So I want to look for that as well. So, but a very quick book. It's very small. Like I said, the accounts from the wrestlers of their favorite match were very, very speedy, very, very small. Some of them were only like 5 pages long, right? So very easy book to read, and very entertaining in a lot of ways. So yeah, recommend if you like wrestling. It wasn't the greatest book. I've enjoyed the biographies. I've read a lot more, but it was a cool idea to hear some of these things right from the wrestlers' mouths on you know, what their favorite matches were and stuff like that. It was a cool idea. Next up, from this year, 2026, TV show called Maul, Shadow Lord. So this is an animated series featuring, yes, one of my favorite motherfuckers in all of the Star Wars galaxy, Darth Maul. So the scene is a planet called Janix. This is where Darth Maul has ended up. And he has a crew of ne'er-do-wells, and the first thing we see them do is make a strike on a vault. They invade this vault after a shipment comes in. They take a bunch of credits, and they also take the security droid that was working in this vault for the information that it provides. Called to the scene is a local lawman named Brandon Lawson or something like that, and with his droid sidekick Two Boots. And so they're investigating things, and they're like, oh man, what happened here? This doesn't make sense. Like, they didn't take all the loot, but they took the security droid, so they're trying to figure out what exactly is going on. Maul and his guys get chased afterwards, but they get away. And also going on the surface of Janix, we have 2 Jedi that have, you know, I think this takes place a few years after Order 66, Revenge of the Sith, after the Jedi are all exterminated. So we've got 2 Jedi survivors from the Purge. I forget the Master's name. He's got a weird name. And then there's Devin is her name. She's a Twi'lek, and she's his apprentice. And so they're living on the streets, getting by on begging and stuff like that, before they move on to whatever their next stop is, trying to hide from the Empire and stuff, right? So we've got these various factions happening. Darth Maul is looking to get back at all the crime syndicates. That's why he stole from this vault. It was some crime lord. And so then he's pitting him against framing kind of somebody else for the theft of it, to try and stir up all of the crime syndicates feelings against one another. He's trying to get even with them, and we don't know why, but he's got something against the syndicates, and he's taken it to them, sort of thing. He even kidnaps this guy named Vario, who is the leader of one of the syndicates, and uses him for intel that he has on the other syndicates. Uses it to wipe out the leadership of the Pike Syndicate, which he then kind of takes over. So yeah, he's doing all of these things to the syndicates, and we just don't know why. And eventually he comes into contact with Devon after she gets arrested, and then gets I can't remember how exactly he picks her up, but she comes under his care, and he's like, ooh, she's got some decent potential. She could be my apprentice, right? So he's trying to turn her, and she wants nothing to do with it, right? So eventually, these three parties all come together. Devon is with Darth Maul and his band. So is that Vario, the syndicate guy. So we've got those people all together. Then we've got Lawson, the lawman, looking into this thing, finally gets some info on Darth Maul, or at least an image on him, brings him up in the data bank, and they're like, oh, Imperial security has like locked this guy down. There's no information on this guy. Like, he's totally restricted. And then eventually the Jedi Master meets Lawson and kind of hears his story, sort of thing. But Lawson doesn't really want much to do with him, because the Jedi, if you get caught harboring a Jedi or whatever, like, that's punishable by death under the Imperial codes, probably, right? So he kind of keeps the Jedi at arm's length and just focuses on finding Maul and bringing that to justice. But he's always one step behind. He can't quite catch him. And I mean, Darth Maul's a Sith, so a regular lawman has no chance against Darth Maul, right? So he's always one step behind. He can't catch him. And Two Boots, in the meantime, his droid assistant, is like, well, we must tell the Empire this is the procedure when we run into a threat like this that we can't handle. And Lawson's like, Two Boots, stop it. Eventually flips the droid off as he was about to contact the Empire, because Lawson knows what the Empire does, and he doesn't want them brought to his planet, because once they're there, they're not going to leave, and things are going to become a lot shittier. So all of this cat and mouse chasing and trying to capture continues, and then eventually, after one of the incidents, Two Boots goes above Lawson's head, contacts the Empire. Suddenly the Empire is there. So there's a fourth player here. We've got Darth Maul and his bunch, we got the Jedi, we got the lawman local, we got the Empire. So all of these don't mix well together. So eventually Darth Maul contacts Lawson and says, do you want to work together? Because Lawson basically gets taken in by the Empire and interrogated for his role in all this. And he just knows it's a matter of time before, he's branded a traitor and detained or whatever, right? So eventually Darth Maul contacts Lawson and says, like, do you want to work together to get off this planet? Or no, that's not how it was. No, before the Empire came, he offered him a proposition to Darth Maul wouldn't bother him if Lawson just looked the other way and let him operate in the shadows as however he wanted. And Lawson's like, can't do that, bruh. And then eventually after that, Two Boots brought the Empire in, and then there was all that. But eventually, Lawson, his son Riley, the two Jedi, Two Boots, and Darth Maul's crew all end up together trying to escape the planet as a team, because the Empire's just pursuing them all at this point. So it's like, we just got to get the fuck off of here. We'll worry about the rest later. And before all this happens, Dryden Voss, who works for Crimson Dawn, contacts Darth Maul about arranging a meeting for him to do something for Dryden Voss. And Maul's like, well, what's in it for me? He's like, I can get you off that planet. So, and if you remember Dryden Voss, he was the boss at Crimson Dawn in the Han Solo movie, that real prick that would have red lines on his face pop up when he was pissed off. But he's not the leader of Crimson Dawn at this point. So when Darth Maul actually finds out what Dryden Voss wants, he's like, I want you to kill the leader of Crimson Dawn so I can take over. So Darth Maul is like, I can respect that, right? So he agrees. So the end of the series, the season, is essentially this big group of all these people that have been thrown together trying to get to Dryden Voss's ship to get off planet. but along the way, spoiler alert, the Jedi Master dies, and I think Lawson, if he's not dead, he doesn't escape with them. He gets left behind trying to fight off the Imperials while everybody else escapes. He just wants his son to get to safety, sort of thing. So we got one Jedi casualty, and we have one lawman who's possibly a casualty, possibly just detained after their battle there. And so then that's how the season ends, with that group, what's left of that group, getting on Dryden Voss's ship and jetting off to the stars. But during that last sequence, when they're all trying to work together to get to Dryden Voss's ship, a certain somebody who also knows the Force and has a red lightsaber joins the season in a cameo way. And let's just say, as soon as I heard him come on screen, that should be a hint for you, I lost my fucking shit, because he's my favorite. And anytime they throw him into anything, I'm all for it. Love this start to this series. I did read that the second season it was confirmed back in April that they'd be doing another one. So there will be a season 2 coming out at some point. Whether it'll turn into a third or whether they're going to wrap it up in season 2, I don't know. But I can't wait until it's out, because I really enjoyed this first season. When it's a character that you really love, as long as they don't butcher it and make your character not what he was. Like in the Boba Fett series, when they kind of gave him a conscience and stuff like that, and he kind of got a little soft. A lot of people didn't like that, and I tend to agree. Like, Boba Fett's a badass. He doesn't give a shit about people, right? So, don't essentially change the character. Just keep it running from what he was in the movies, and just find a really cool story to go with it. And you have a winning formula. Last up, I watched this on Netflix last week. It was a 4-part documentary released earlier this year in 2026, and it is called The Dinosaurs. So, The Dinosaurs, a 4-part documentary series that narrated by Morgan Freeman, and Steven Spielberg had some sort of role in the creation of this documentary. I really enjoyed it, but at the same time, there was some things lacking in it. So each part kind of took an era of the dinosaurs and kind of glossed over what went on. So part 1 is called Rise, and it starts 235 million years ago at the start of the Triassic period. The second episode at the start of the Jurassic period. Third part at the start of the Cretaceous period. And then the fourth part, the downfall of the dinosaurs. It was all about the meteor that came in and wiped everything out over a period of time. So it was really cool. The dinosaurs looked pretty cool. The Spinosaurus laying a trap for the sharks in that was such a cool part of that documentary. And then the T-Rex had some good footage. Very interesting in terms of the dinosaurs they chose to use on top of all the popular, you saw Triceratops, you saw Stegosauruses, you saw the T-Rex. No raptors or anything like that. Well, there were some more minor raptors, but they also had a lot of smaller ones that played a big part in what future dinosaurs would evolve into. Like the small beginnings led to big finales kind of thing. And also some that ended up turning into like modern day birds kind of thing, right? So there was definitely some different avenues they explored in terms of trying to explain everything, not only from back then and how that whole timeline progressed, but as it goes into modern times as well. And with each episode, a number of times they would show like the surface of the earth in these really cool features where the camera would pan across the earth in a really quick style, and you would see like mountains rising and falling, lava coming up, blah blah blah, rains and you'd see the changes in the earth and how everything shifted and everything. I thought that was a really cool feature of it. But what I didn't like about it was that it was very light on the actual details. It was like, well, these were the dinosaurs that arose in this period. Okay, but why? How? What led to that dinosaur coming? And then, like the scientific details of how things were and came to be, I found just to be a little bit lacking. You know what I mean? I want all the nerd facts and figures, even if I forget them, and then as soon as the episode's over, I want to know why. You know, not just this documentary, even though it looked great and sounded great, it kind of glossed over a lot of stuff. At least that was my impression of it. I may be wrong, I don't know, but that was just how I felt about it. As much as I did enjoy it, I also had this kind of, I was left a bit empty, or not quite as satisfied as I thought would be by watching this. So that was the only downside to it. But overall, it was a really neat documentary to watch, and it's crazy. Like when you watch something like that, like humans live for an average of what, 70 something years. To us, it might seem like a long time over the course of a lifetime, but in the cosmic scale of things, it's such a tiny, it's not even a footnote in the annals of history. Like 70 years is nothing. Because when they talk about the time, like I don't remember, like the Triassic started at 235 million years ago, and then I don't remember when the Jurassic started, but I think it was like high 100s, like maybe 185, something like that. I could be off a little bit, but that was kind of what I remember. So the Triassic period alone took up like well over 40 million years. 40 million years. Like, think about how long a time that is. And then think about, that's only one age of the dinosaurs. So like the sauropods or whatever that arose during that period, they dominated the earth for fucking 40 million fucking years. Like, do you know how many skeletons that would be in the earth from 40 million years of brachiosaurs roaming the land or whatever? Like, that's boom, right? It just fucking boggles your mind. And then you get into the Jurassic, and who, God knows how long that was, but I'm sure another 40 million or 50, I don't know. And then the Cretaceous. And then everything after the dinosaurs died off, the 100 million or less years that until the rise of humans, right? Like, it's fucking crazy when you really think about it and try to wrap your head around it, right? Like, you can't. It's just too big. You're still left with this sense of wonder, like, holy shit, but you can't even begin to compute how long that would actually be, right? And there was the point that illustrated that to me and really got me thinking about that in a large way was, I think it was during the Triassic period, when a lot of the planet was almost uninhabitable. It was like desert, dry, hot as fuck. Like, it was just not capable of sustaining life. And then some seismic activity happened. The clouds went up in the sky, and then it rained and rained and rained, and it basically changed how the earth looked with how much water the earth got, because it rained for, guess how long? 1 million fucking years of rain. Like, that's the stat that made me go, what the fuck, right? 1 million years of rain. Like when we have a bad summer and we get like 3 days in a row of rain that prevent the sun from coming out, you're like, fuck, I'm going stir crazy, fuck this. 1 million years of rain. Fucking bonkers. So yeah, so you know, the documentary was good. I found it a bit lacking, but it definitely was thought-provoking, right? Definitely thought-provoking. So I do recommend it. It is a fun watch, but just not as scientific and nerdy as I was hoping it would be. So anyways, that's what I got for you this time. I've already got a little pile started for next time. I hope to be back to you ASAP. We'll see when that be. Peace! Meow.